هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة وبعث مقاما محمودا الذي إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم آمين. Beloved brothers and sisters in Islam, respected elders, honorable Muslims, worshippers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we begin by praising and thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for having created us and guided us towards the honorable lifestyle of Islam. We ask him to send peace and salutations upon Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our teacher, our role model, and our leader. I advise myself and all of you to have taqwa of Allah, consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring peace to the heart and to the mind and will bring solace and comfort. I advise myself and all of you to always remember the home of the hereafter and to remember the transient nature of this world so that we don't become too addicted to this world or too distracted by this world, and we always remember our purpose and our destination. Several members of the community have had conversations with me regarding mental health issues, either pertaining to themselves or to their family members, which drew my attention to the alarming trend of mental health problems in Canada and in the Western world in general. According to statistics published by the Canadian government in 2022, 5 million Canadians, which is about 18% of the population, Canadian population, aged 15 and above, reached the diagnostic standard for mood, anxiety, or substance use disorders. Notably, the prevalence of mood and anxiety disorders has grown considerably over the past decade, with young women particularly affected. And Islam has offered many valuable assets and tools that can help us understand and face mental health issues. So inshallah ta'ala, in today's khutbah, we will go over some of the valuable components that Islam has offered us in understanding and facing mental health issues. First of all, there's no denial that the human mind can become ill, just like the human body can become ill. The reactions and patterns of our psychology can become pathological in a way that negatively impacts our life and the life of those around us. And just like if you catch a cold, nobody's going to say, oh, that's because you have low iman or your faith is not good. Similarly, having mental health issues does not mean that your faith is weak. Does not mean that there's a problem in your religion. Does not mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not like you. We get sick because it's part of the test in this world. It's part of the nature of our fragile and vulnerable nature. However, at the same time, we should also be aware of the tendency, the clear tendency that a lot of mental health professionals are concerned about, which is the over-pathologization of normal behavior and overdiagnosing them as mental health issues. What this means is perhaps you've had a bad few days and you're experiencing some negative emotions, which is totally normal. You're feeling bad. But you yourself or someone else comes along and says, oh, it seems you have depression. Maybe you should go see a therapist. Maybe you should take some antidepressants. Or you're feeling anxiety within a normal range due to an anxiety-inducing event that is going to happen in the near future. You have an interview, you have an exam, and you should be anxious. It's a natural reaction. However, someone else comes along, or you're yourself, after some research online, you tell yourself, maybe I have anxiety disorder. I should go see a psychiatrist. I should take some medicine. This over-pathologization of mental health issues could be caused by a variety of reasons. It could be this cultural insinuation of self-care and individualism and just be yourself and focus on yourself. It could be commercial interest in the pharmaceutical and medical industry. And if we don't think, the medical industry and the pharmaceutical industry are industries that have a vested interest in money, then who are we fooling, right? There could be many other reasons that could lead to the over-pathologizing of mental health, of normal behavior, and considering them, diagnosing them as mental health issues. And this concern is not the concern of me as an individual. This is a concern of many mental health professionals. For example, Professor Jeremy Wakefield wrote a paper in 2010, which is published in the Journal of Mental Health, called Misdiagnosing Normality: Psychiatry's Failure to Address the Problem of False Positive Diagnosis of Mental Disorder in a Changing Professional Environment. In the paper, he mentioned in psychiatry's transformation from primarily an asylum-based profession to a community-oriented profession, false positive diagnoses that mistakenly classify normal intense reactions to stress as mental disorders became a major challenge to the validity of psychiatric diagnosis. And you can see this trend in how many mental disorders have been listed by the APA, American Psychiatry Association, in their Diagnostic and Statistic Manual of Mental Disorders. In 1952, the first version of this manual, there are 106 disorders. The second version, 1968, 182 disorders. The third version, 1980, 265 disorders. The fourth version, 1994, 297 disorders. It keeps increasing. Every time someone comes and complains of a problem, let's add it to the manual. It's a mental disorder. Why not? So it kept increasing, and this attracted attention from mental health professionals, not amateurs like me, but they noticed that there's a trend to over-pathologize normal behavior, right? And it has something to do with also the confirmative nature of the practice of psychiatry nowadays. Whenever you go to a psychiatrist and you say, I have this problem, they have been trained to confirm. They will not make judgment. You think you have depression? Sure, you have depression. Why not? You think you have anxiety disorder? Of course you have anxiety disorder. So I'll give you some prescription, take these drugs, take this medicine. And so in the fifth version and the latest version in 2013, they reduced the number of listed mental health disorders to 157 because they noticed this alarming trend. Eventually, if we keep going like this, everything is going to become a mental disorder. If you sneeze, that's a mental disorder. So there is this over-pathologizing we should be aware of. And so what does Islam offer with this background in terms of understanding and treating mental health disorders? Number one, very importantly and very powerfully, Islam offers us a clear understanding of the reality of this world. And so that really helps. Right? Nowadays, you ask a person who believes he has mental health disorders, so we shouldn't so easily jump into conclusions which we don't understand. We shouldn't so easily apply these terms that we find on Wikipedia or social media to ourselves. You see a term, you read the symptoms, hey, that's exactly me. I have borderline personality disorder, I have bipolar disorder. So you start, putting yourself into these descriptions. There's a self-fulfilling prophecy happening here. You ask someone, why do you think you have mental health disorder? He says, because life is hard. And so as a Muslim, our response should be, yes, life is hard. And you don't have to be depressed to know that. You just need to be awake. Life is indeed hard for everybody. You ask someone, why do you think you have mental health disorder? He says, because I'm suffering. Okay, with all due respect, who's not? Do you know any individual in this life who's not suffering from something on some level, to some extent, at some time? Everybody here is suffering from something, because that's the nature of this world. That's dunya, that's how dunya is designed, and that's what it's for. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, indeed we have created human beings in intensity, in toil and trial and tribulations and hardship and difficulty. That's the nature of this world. So as Muslims, if we always remember it's just dunya. Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, he said, الدنيا كلها غموم فما كان منها في سرور فهو ربح. The dunya, its entirety is sorrow and worry and grief. If you so happen to find some happiness, if you turn out to be happy for some time, that is a bonus. That's extra. That's not a part of it. The dunya entirely is worry and sorrow. So it's normal if you're feeling negative emotions because you're in the dunya. And so as Muslims, when we remember it's just dunya, all of a sudden it doesn't seem so gloomy anymore. It doesn't seem so negative anymore. It's what it is, and we need to be strong enough to face it. And that's why in the same surah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ, He also said, فَلَقَتَحَمَ الْعَقَبَةِ. Why don't you rush towards the uphill path, the mountain path, the difficulty, the obstruction, the obstacle? Why don't you face it head on? That's the expectation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, life is hard. I just told you life is hard. Face it anyway. Because that shows your spirituality. That shows your iman. That shows your trust upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That shows your faith in a hereafter, which is trouble-free. But right now, as in the dunya, we will suffer. And it doesn't mean you have mental health issues if you are suffering. Everyone is suffering. So when I first started working, when I first entered the society, right after graduation, I was complaining to an Egyptian friend. I said, oh, there's office politics, a lot of corruption, a lot of problems. And he patiently listened to all my complaining, and he said, it's just dunya. Like, what's the big deal, man? Why are you worrying too much? It's just dunya. Everything you're complaining to me, it's just dunya. And it's going to end very soon. And once it ends, you won't even remember what happened in this life. As if it's a day or a part of a day. You won't remember it. So this is number one tool or weapon that our religion has offered us to understand and to face mental health issues. It's just dunya. Number two, another weapon that our religion offers us is the instruction to always be active, to always do something. I'm sure many of you know the dua that the Prophet ﷺ taught us, as Imam al-Bukhari narrated on the authority of Abi Hurairah. He taught us to make this dua, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-hammi wal-hazn, wal-ajzi wal-kasal, wal-bukhli wal-jubn, wa dala'i ad-dayni wa ghalabat al-rijal. Oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from grief and sorrow, from sadness and worries. And so, subhanAllah, a lot of people say, yeah, I know the dua, but is there something more professional? I want a therapy solution. I want a medical solution. Leave me alone with the dua. Save the preaching. SubhanAllah, as believers, we need to have conviction in the power of dua. You know, once I was in Medina, I was talking with a friend of mine, Abdul Rahman. He was at the time doing Magister in Medina University. I said, I've been feeling a little depressed recently. And immediately he asked me, when was the last time you made this dua? Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-hammi wal-hazn. I said, oh, it's been a few days. I think it's been many days since I made this dua. So he said, what's the surprise then? Of course you're depressed. Like, of course you're depressed because you're not making this dua. You're not seeking protection from Allah from this sorrow and sadness. So you will experience it naturally. And so after he said that, I started making this dua every day. And this is part of our adhkar al-sabah and adhkar al-masa every day anyway. We're supposed to say this every day. And so I started doing that, and all of a sudden, it becomes much more manageable, the negative emotions. So we need to have conviction in the power of dua. If you are feeling some trouble in your heart, make this dua. Oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from grief and sorrow. But immediately after that, he said, وَالْعَجْزِ وَالْكَسَلِ. Oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from weakness or incapacity, inaction, and laziness. So there's a correlation here. A lot of times our grief and sorrow is caused by a lack of action. Human beings are created to be active. Babies, they start punching and kicking even when they're in the wombs of their mother. And once they came into this world, they start moving their little fists and feet, right? Throwing a tantrum. We are designed to be active, to be always moving, to be always active. And so, if you are experiencing some kind of negative emotions, the worst thing you can do is to lock yourself in the room doing nothing. That will make it worse. Rather, you should go and exercise, play basketball, go for a jog, do some physical exercise that will release dopamine, and it will help with your mental health problems. And also be active, particularly in a field which he also mentioned, I seek refuge in you from al-bukhl wal-jubn, from cowardice and from stinginess. So the opposite of stinginess is generosity. The opposite of cowardice is bravery. The Prophet ﷺ is telling us, are you feeling sad? Are you feeling sorrowful? Okay, I have a solution for you. Be active, number one. Number two, be generous and be brave. Meaning, be active in a way that benefit others. Serve other people. Help other people in need. Do something beneficial for the community. Start a project that will remove your sorrow and remove your sadness. Because al-jazā'u min jinsil amal. Reward is from the same category as the action. If you try to cure other people, Allah will cure you as a result. And so, from this dua, we can learn all of these important things. But most importantly, be active. A lot of antidepressants, they are basically sedatives. They tighten your mood swing. They make you feel slower. They make you act slower, which could help temporarily, but in the long run, it has a lot of side effects and has a lot of harms. So rather, a great medicine is to be active. Go recite the Quran. Go pray. Go watch a lecture. Go out with some practicing and knowledgeable brothers and sisters and experience the vigor of life that will prevent you and help you with mental health issues. Number three, another tool that Islam has offered us is لا تحزن إن الله معنا. When the Prophet ﷺ was with Abu Bakr in the cave and they were being chased by the Quraysh, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was feeling a little sad. So the Prophet ﷺ told him, لا تحزن إن الله معنا. Don't be sad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with us. And so really, if you can acknowledge and if you can truly experience the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always with you, it will really help you with a lot of mental health concerns. Allah is always with you. You are never alone. أَلَمْ تَرَ أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. Don't you see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows whatever is in the heavens and whatever is in the earth? مَا يَكُونُ مِن نَجْوَى ثَلَاثَةٍ إِلَّا هُوَ رَابِعُهُمْ وَلَا خَمْسَةٍ إِلَّا هُوَ سَادِسُهُمْ وَلَا أَدْنَى مِن ذَلِكَ وَلَا أَكْثَرَ إِلَّا هُوَ مَعَهُمْ أَيْنَمَا كَانُوا. There's no four people having a conversation except, there's no three people having a conversation except that he's the fourth one. And there's no five people having a conversation except that he's the sixth one. Or if there's more than that, there's less than that, he's always with them wherever they may be. You are never alone. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows your struggles. Allah azza wa jal cares about you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala understands your problems. All you have to do is to act in a way that draws His care, earns His mercy, and you will be able to recover by His help. And so you don't just lock yourself in the room doing nothing. You start and pray. You make wudu and pray. You recite the Quran. You read some adhkar. You make dua. You call upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You cry to Him about your problems, and all of a sudden you will find cure because Allah is with you. He knows your struggles and He will help you with your struggles. And number four, and one of the last ones I will share today, is about meaning, purpose, and responsibility. You find mental health issues more prevalent in the younger generation than older generation. And so a lot of times it's parents who came to me about the problem of their daughters or their sons. So if you ask someone from an older generation, you ask an uncle here, you ask an aunt, have you ever been depressed in your life? You know what answer they will give you? They will say, I've never had time to be depressed. I'm too busy feeding my family, raising my children, taking care of my wife, my husband, right? I'm so busy fulfilling my responsibilities in life. Anybody got time for that? I have no time to be depressed. I have no time to be anxious. And that's a very good answer, actually. When we are occupied with meaningful things, a lot of these mental health issues will have no room to come. And so when we are free, when we are not occupied with meaningful things, shaitan starts giving you whispers and lead you towards a more pathological state. And so a lot of psychologists, they said that happiness should not be a goal in life. It is a false goal. We shouldn't seek happiness. Rather, we should seek meaning, and happiness is a byproduct. Happiness is a byproduct in the pursuit of meaning. When you do something meaningful, when you do something beneficial, when you do something purpose-driven, you will find happiness as a byproduct. Just like you have a shadow. If you try to chase the shadow, you will never catch it. But if you face the light, you walk towards the light, the shadow will follow you. Happiness will follow you. And that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also told us in the Quran, من عمل صالحا من ذكر أو أنثى وهو مؤمن فلا نحيينه حياة طيبة. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, whoever does righteous deeds from men or women, male or female, while they have iman, we will surely give them hayatan tayyiba, a good life. He didn't say a happy life. You may not be happy, but you will have a tayyiba, a beautiful, meaningful life. And if you read through the Quran, the concept of sa'adah, happiness, only ever occurs in the context of the akhirah. Happiness is something that will only truly occur in the hereafter when we enter paradise. Don't seek happiness in this life. You'll never find it. Seek meaning. Fulfill responsibilities. Take care of people you're supposed to take care of. Do something to make the world a little bit better. We cannot save the world, and Allah doesn't expect us to save the world. We cannot change the state of a country or the fate of a nation, but do something to make one person's life a little bit better. Spread knowledge just a little bit, convey one hadith, one ayah from the Quran, remind one person of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, lead one person to Islam. And all of a sudden you find happiness filling your heart, not because you sought it, but because you earned it by doing something meaningful. So Islam gives us purpose. Islam is very clear about what we're living for. We're living for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're living to experience this closeness with Allah azza wa jal. We're living to be accepted by Allah as a Muslim, as someone who submits in the hereafter and enter paradise. So follow that pursuit. Focus on that, and a lot of mental health issues will go away. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه وصلوات الله وسلامه على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أيها المسلمون اتقوا الله ومن يتق الله يجعل له مخرجا ويرزقه من حيث لا يحتسب ومن يتوكل على الله فهو حسبه إن الله بالغ أمره قد جعل الله لكل شيء قدرا. My brothers and sisters, sometimes when you offer this kind of religion-based, faith-based spiritual advice to someone who believes he's suffering from mental health issues, sometimes you get a dismissive attitude. Like, I know about, stop, save me the preaching. It's not a khutbah, okay? Stop talking to me about religion. I want some professional advice. I want some medical advice. I want some therapeutical solutions. As if there is no therapeutic effect in our religion. So you want academic discussion. I will give you one academic discussion, a paper written by Luca, published in the journal New Ideas in Psychology in 2021. The paper is called Effects of Religion and Faith on Mental Health. He did a meta-analysis, collected hundreds of quantitative research about the correlation between faith, religion, and mental health state. And he mentioned in the paper, in general, it seems that religious beliefs are associated with improved mental health, higher social functioning, and minimization of self-destructive tendencies. So when we say, read the Quran, it helps. It does help, big time. It really helps. When we say that, make wudu and pray 2 rak'ah, it helps. It really helps. All you have to do is believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, trust Allah's promise, and do it, execute, experience, experiment. Right? Don't dismiss the solutions offered by the religion. This religion is not designed by some academic or some professor. This religion is designed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rabbul Alameen, the Lord of the world, the one who created you, the one who knows you better than you know yourselves. So don't dismiss the tools offered by the religion, rather take them seriously. Make the dua with your heart. Read the adhkar with your heart. Hold on to your 5 daily prayers. You know, the worst thing you can do when you're facing mental health issues is to disregard your religion, because that will definitely make the situation worse. So you hold on to your prayer even if you don't feel like doing so. You come to the masjid even if you are anxious among people. You attend halaqat of knowledge even if you're not interested. You remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even if you're in pain. And if you endure, if you show Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala your sabr, your patience, inshallah ta'ala, by His mercy and by His grace, a lot of these problems can be solved. But in the end, of course, a disclaimer, again, there is no denial that certain mental health issues have a physiological basis. Sometimes depression is caused by a physiological change in your brain. And if that is the case, of course, you should seek professional help and follow professional instructions. But don't dismiss these tools from the religion as well. Have a combined approach. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cure all of us who are suffering from mental health issues. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from any kind of illness, physical or spiritual or mental. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant all Muslims all over the world health and well-being. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect the Muslims all over the world from any kind of harm in this world or the next. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to remove the trials and tribulations that our brothers and sisters in Gaza are facing. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help brothers and sisters all over the world who are oppressed in Sudan, in Yemen, and in many other places of the world. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to remove the trials and tribulations that Muslims are suffering from. Allahumma ameen. Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين اللهم نج المستضعفين من المؤمنين اللهم انصر المسلمين في غزة وفي فلسطين وفي السودان وفي الصين وفي اليمن وفي كل مكان من أرضك يا رب العالمين اللهم انصرهم على القوم الكافرين ونجيهم من القوم الظالمين ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب ربنا إننا آمنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وقنا عذاب النار اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. And in the end, there is a request from one of our community members. There is a brother called Abdullah. He's been struggling with cancer. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant him a cure and shifa. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward him for his patience, for his sufferings. And there is another brother called Muhammad Noor. He recently passed away. Very knowledgeable brother. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have mercy on him, to forgive him, and to elevate his status in Jannah. عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون فاذكروا الله يذكركم واشكروه ولا تكفروه وأقيموا الصلاة. الله أكبر الله